Welcome to Paintabilities, and today is our final lesson in water, and we're going to be taking a look at a waterfall and how to get that look of falling water, soft and pretty and frothy as it hits the flat area. And so take a look at this photograph that I found on Pixabay, and this is just a very simple waterfall going over rocks, surrounded by rocks and enclosed with trees above, just a kind of idyllic scene. And so I'm going to be sharing with you how to create this on today on Paintability. So let's get started. I'm working on an 8 by 10 canvas. I've taken a pencil and just roughly sketched in the layout of my rocks. I'm not necessarily saying these are going to be where they end up being for sure, but based on the photograph that I'm looking at. The key here is placing your waterfall and having enough spacing around that to get everything in. And so the important part here is where the water is coming away from the base of the fall, and then where it's falling over here in the center. And if you look at halfway, right, this is an 8 by 10, so about 5 inches down, that's where the top of, just below that is where the top of our main waterfall is going to be. And it's got kind of a stair step going up above it, and then the rocks are all around, and then our trees come in the top third. So that's all I would need to do to sketch in to get started. And if you need a pattern, you can find a link in the comments, pinned to the top of the comments, where you can download the pattern for this class. Okay, so let's get going. I'm going to be working with some Donna Dewberry one-stroke sponge painters. This comes in a 2-piece set, and we're going to be using both of these today. All right, I'm going to be using the large one to get my background up here, just kind of a muted green background so that my pretty leaves on top are going to show. And then this one has a pointed end on it, and I'm going to be showing you how we're going to create just the basic shapes of these rocks first with this, and then using our brush to add in some more of the fine details with that. Okay, so first thing, I'm going to dampen my fingers and rub them on the large sponge just to get the surface damp. And I'm going to be picking up my dark green. So remember the mantra of you have to have dark to see light. So I'm going to start with a dark sap green in the background. These are Plaid FolkArt multi-surface paints. They come in a variety of colors, and they work on many, many surfaces with a self-sealing property. So you don't have to seal the paint if you don't want to. And they work on canvas, wood, glass, fabric, any type of surface that you can imagine. And they come in a satin finish. Okay, so this is sap green, and I'm going to load that on my sponge here, just work that into the sponge, and then we're ready to start. So the first thing I'm going to do is come up here and make circles to work this in. And this is a wrapped canvas, so I'm going to not have to bother framing this. I'm going to go around the outside edges with the color that's already on my sponge and just continue working this dark green down around the tops of my rocks. All right, so a little bit darker right in here. All right, and I'm not worrying about movement or leaving anything I'm not worried about leaving any kind of marks from my sponge, because I'm going to come in and do a whole bunch of stroke work on top of this. So it's just getting some dark color back in there and along the edges here. Okay, just up to the tops of those rocks. And then I'm also going to come down here, and we're going to work in this color here. Now I want to put just a little touch of white and a little touch of citrus green with that sap. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and put this down here, right up against the base of those rocks. Now the rocks follow through the water, and we're going to be creating that, but we need this kind of base color. So it's got, if you look at the picture, the water here has a greenish tone to it, and that's primarily from the reflection of the leaves on the trees and the things around it. So that's going to be our base. Start with that. Okay. And I'm just going to tap this out. Pick up some of that wet paint so that it dries a little faster. All right, so that's all I wanted to do with this sponge. I'm going to go ahead and fold that up and put it in my cubby for cleaning later. And we're going to pick up the smaller sponge now. Get damp fingers on the surface of the sponge, and we're going to be using this pointed area to get in our rock shapes. Okay, so in this case I'm using some medium gray as our base. So I'm going to load medium gray onto the point of that sponge. Okay, and so with this I'm going to come in and I can get into some more shapes with that point. Now I might just obliterate all of my sketching, but for the most part this is going to serve as our base for our rocks. So I can come right in here and create that undercolor for my water stair step. And then continue on with the rock shape. So see how I'm able to create some outline, and the back end of that sponge is giving me the lighter color behind it. All right, and like I said, I'm going to continue these rocks down into the water. But actually, before I do that, because it's picking up some of that green, and I don't want that green in the rest of my, let's do the rest of the rocks above the water first. So it's not a real heavy color, just a tint. And then you can press to get a fine line out in front. So here I want to bring this down and then have another in front, right there. So that pointed sponge is really good for helping you get that look. And then underneath, we want some of that too. And again, I'm going to grab just a little bit of that green with it now. And bring that right over. Okay. Now I can continue, and I've got a little bit of that green is picking up. So I'm probably not going to be able to do what I wanted to do. Let's see. I can't press real hard. And you're just giving a hint of that rock being underneath that water. There we go. And just kind of tap that in because it's picking up my green paint and I don't want it to do that. So we'll have to let that dry and actually come in with the brush and do more of that, but that's a good start. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and fold that up and put that in my cubby also, and we'll clean that later. So we have a good base and we're ready to start with the brushwork. So the first thing I want to do is working from the back forward. I want to finish up this dark area back here and all the rocks around the waterfall. And then we'll do the hanging trees and the finished foam on the water and any other little greenery pieces we want to do. So I got a 16 flat here. And I'm going to just go around and tell you the rest of the colors I have. So this is classic green, wicker white, classic French gray, bark brown, little bit of licorice, and then floating medium here in the middle if I need it. And so I'm going to go ahead and load some bark brown, and then I'm going to come and side stroke some of this sap green. So bark brown and sap green. Get a touch of medium in there just so I know it'll help me move on this canvas. Okay, so back in here in the trees, we've got some trunks. Let's turn it with the brown down. And so I'm going to just throw a few of these trunks back in here. You're not going to see much of these, but they are kind of peeping through. Okay, and then I'm going to take my sap green right here and just kind of with the corner of that brush pull in some dark undergrowth around the back of those rocks. We can come right in here and get a little bit more of that bark brown. And this will help the foliage to show. Tap a little of that brown in there too. All right, and then we can pull our trunks down into it a little bit. Okay. So let's work on these rocks. You're going to get a good lesson in rocks with this too. So, all right, so 16 flat, I'm going to load with this classic French gray. And I'm going to come and side stroke some of this medium gray. Okay. All right. So we've got the rocks in the back have a darker top to them because they're in the shade. And then below here we can pull up some of that dark or lighter color. So let's side stroke just a little bit of white. And we can kind of tap in some texture. Put the dark back in here with the light down. And with rocks, you kind of want to create hard lines of dark and light as the shadow falls on them. Get a little bit of white in here and you can streak some of that. Now, actually here I want to put some lighter color because this rock is actually getting quite a bit of light on it. And then the darker part is going to be down here. And kind of shove up a little bit. And create that texture. up here, let's get some white. This one is a big, tall guy. He comes down like that. And then there'll be some dark down here, pulling up. And then I'm just tapping in a little bit of texture in some areas so it gets some light and dark for the rough surface of that rock. Now let's come get some white again, and we'll come right up here, need a little more. Okay, now I'll wipe that brush off. I want to come back to some dark gray, so medium gray here. Pull this one down, and then pick up some of that classic French gray. That's not quite showing, so let's get some white. There we go. All right, so then we're going to have some greenery coming through here. So we'll put some lighter rock right there. And I'm going to get the classic French gray and some white. This rock has an angle to it. Need a little more white with that. And you come across the top. Come through here. Still working with my 16 flat, and I'm picking up classic French gray. They're big granite rocks, lots of gray tones in them. Now I'm going to get a little of that dark medium gray, excuse me, and we're going to put some crevices. And it's wet down here, so it's going to be a little darker. Okay. That's medium gray right there for a dark area coming into there. And then we'll come back to the classic French and some white. All of these strokes are primarily on the flat of the brush, and they're choppy. Okay. Getting some dark medium gray here. So far I'm pretty happy with how these rocks are turning out. I'm going to continue with some more of the medium gray, and we'll put the face on this one. Then we'll pick up the classic French and start to lighten up this face. Now I'm going to get some white and kind of work that in with those choppy strokes as it comes down towards the water here. Right, back to the classic French and a little more right through here. Okay, so that's the good base for our rocks. And I'm liking that I can see down in here, but what I want to do in that water is I want to take some medium. So I clean that 16 flat, I got some floating medium on the brush, and I'm going to get some of the classic French gray, work that in with the medium. And now we can come down into this water. And just put some hints of some rocks down in there. Maybe get a little bit of the medium gray with medium. And then right through here. Okay. A little more medium gray, and I'm going to get some of that sap green with it. Right in here, we're going to create a little darker area. Still choppy strokes. Okay. All right, now I'm going to leave that brush. And we're going to let these rocks kind of dry. And while they're drying, I'm going to show you how to work with a fan brush to do some foliage up here for the trees hanging over. Okay, so this is a number 4 fan brush. I'm going to get that with some water. And we're going to start with our classic green. And a touch of the sap on one corner. Okay, so a little bit darker on one half, a little bit lighter on the other half. Okay, so with that dark, I'm going to come right through here, and you're just tapping that corner. So I want you to see what that looks like. You're taking the corner of the brush and you're pushing down, and whatever is left from that pressure is creating some texture. All right, so we're going to kind of create the shape of our branches as they're hanging over. So I'm just picking up more of that sap green for now. Okay, now, oops, picked up the wrong color. Sap. So just pressing that corner down and letting it create that shape and leaving some light, leaving the background showing. All right, so while I'm working this side of the canvas, now I'm going to come with that classic green. And we're going to tap in. All right, that's not light enough, so let's put a little bit of citrus with it. So classic with citrus. There we go. Let's get this out of the glare a little bit. We'll switch places. All right, now I'm going to take citrus with some white. So this will, the mix of citrus and classic was our mid-tone, and now this is going to be our lightest color. So actually what I want to do is come out here to the tips first. Citrus with white is going to be our lightest color. Okay. Now we want to do the same thing on the other half, and then we'll come back and work on our rocks. So I'll finish this other half and we'll be right back. Okay, so I finished the foliage in the background using that same method, and what I want to do now is just come in with, this is an 8 flat. I'm going to get some medium on that and come get some more sap green, and we're going to just kind of push in here with a little bit more dark back up under these trees. Creating that kind of opening in the background here. And a little bit of division in the branches here. There. So if you get carried away at all with adding all those leaves and stuff, you just know that you can come back in and add some dark back in to kind of separate those out. Okay. All right, there we go. Okay, so now we're ready to put some final touches on our rocks and begin working on our waterfall, which is the primary focus of this lesson. So taking the 8 flat, I'm going to come and get some bark brown, a little bit of medium, and I'm going to wash over some areas on these rocks. Just to put a little bit of a reddish brown tone to them. The bark brown has a little bit of a red tone. But I don't want it heavy, so I'm adding the medium to it. Still using those choppy strokes, so it's not flat stroked on. Okay, then I can wipe that off and come get a little bit of licorice. And we've got a little bit of a little cave right there. And a little back here. Just a tiny bit. This very strong color. So, and again, we're just kind of stroking that on there. Get a little medium with that. And we'll rub this in the shaded area coming through. But leave the texture, okay? So the key part of a waterfall is a lot of times it's the surroundings that create that fall. So this is an important part of the lesson. Okay. Let's put a little bit more of that dark gray in here. Very rough. See that? Just light and dark areas. Texture. Okay, I think we're in good shape with that. Now, we want to have some dark under here so that our water shows. And so I'm going to come and get sap green with the medium gray. And we're going to create our stair step waterfall here. So we need to have the bottom lines, right, where the water falls onto it. And then the color underneath. Gray with the medium gray with the sap green. And you're just pulling little curved strokes. And then actually I think that's going to be the top of my waterfall right there, right through here. Okay, so we have to have that undercolor there. See how rough that is? Okay, so now what we want to do is we can come in with, I like to use a mop brush for the splash at the bottom, but I like to use the rake brush for the waterfall itself. So this is a 3/8 inch rake, and I'm going to get white with that, but it's not, you don't want stark white. So let's get a little bit of this classic green with white. All right, and we're going to start to pull this water down. So we're pulling it like that. And let's just kind of shove this back in here. And then this, let's bring this down. So this will be our mid-tone color. Right, and then we'll have the fall itself. So you're touching here and then curve and then straight down. Let's get a little medium with that. And so it has to come straight this way. A little bit of curve at the top and then straight down. And let it just touch the water here. All right, now I'm going to wipe that brush off, and now we want the white. And we're going to use a touch of classic French gray with that. All right, and then we're going to come back up here and just pull little bits of highlight over the top. Following that same curve. Let's get a touch of water with that so that it helps it move a little more. Now as I'm here forward, is this going to look exactly like the picture? No. You want to be careful not to make it look stripy, okay? So you're letting some of that overlap each other so it doesn't. Now let's get some strong white. And we're going to kind of tap that in here. So now notice I've changed the orientation of my brush. It's now vertical. Okay. And you can do a little bit up here too. And what I like to do is you can just push up a little bit where it's hitting each level of these drops. And it just kind of disappears back in there. All right, now from here, it's going to spray out like that. So I'm just kind of scrubbing the tip of my brush with whatever paint is left on here to create that kind of foam on the water just on the outskirts, and then you can kind of sweep. So it's straight in the middle and then curve to the outsides. All right, now let's come to our mop. So this is a 1/2-inch mop. I'm going to get first white with just a touch of that classic French gray. And I'm tapping it like you would a scruffy. But this just has a little more texture to it than a scruffy does. All right, and so what we're going to do here is just kind of pounce. Okay, and then you can pull that out on the edges. But let some of that green show through, right? So don't get too carried away with how much heavy color you're putting on here. Now, wipe that off and then get just white. And let's go this way. We're going to go up. And we're lightly tapping. And then you can tap out a little bit. Okay. Now I think we could come and tap a little bit into our waterfall too. Actually, let's flatten this brush. So you can flatten it like a flat brush. There. And then tap it. Okay, then we can come out here with a little bit. There. Now, I want to just, well, let's clean that brush and wipe it real good on paper towel. Get it dry-ish. And that has to dry, the water here. So while that's drying, now I'm going to come in with my 8 flat again, and we can come back with a sap green and medium gray mixture. And we can come right in here and add back some of that dark undercolor. And pull over some from the top. Okay. All right. Now let's come back to add some of the greenery around these rocks. So this can get kind of fun. So I'm going to use this rake again. This is the 3/8 inch rake. Let's get some classic green. Actually get a little bit of water with that. There we go. Classic green, and then a little bit of citrus on the tip. And we're going to do, there's grasses growing and falling over here. So we're going to come right in here. Let's get a little bit darker first in this area. So little chisel pulls. Then you can get a little bit of white. I think we need some sap in here for it to show. There we go. Right in here. Get a little dark. And then the light. Right up here. So that was sap, and then this is the lighter color. So some citrus, and then citrus and white. And then you can come back to the dark green and do some shorter ones. And do some long leaves here. They're all kind of popping up from the cracks in the rocks. Get a little bit of white with that. So I'm just alternating between my greens, lights and darks. And then you can even tap a little bit. For ferns. Let me wipe that brush off because I got too many different greens on there. So let's go with some sap. Tap a little bit. And then get your light green citrus in this case. Okay. All right, now let's go to our flat brush. This is an 8 flat, and I'm going to come and get citrus on this, side load some classic. And we've got a little branch coming out here. Maybe add a little bit of white to that, pop it up a little bit. A little bit of sap in here. Okay, I think that's looking pretty good. Now you could get in here with some flower colors too if you wanted to. But I think we're capturing the scene pretty well. All right, now what I want to do down here in this water is I want to come in with medium on my 1/2 inch scruffy. And I want to get some citrus green and white with medium. I think that's going to be a little too bright, so let's add a little bit of this classic in here. That's better. So medium, I got citrus, classic, and white. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to go right over the top of our water. Probably should have done that before I put those leaves in, but that's okay. And you can come right up here next to the rocks with a little bit of light on the chisel edge of that brush. You're not seeing it over here, but over here you are. So a little lighter color that's got a little bit more white in it. Okay, so that's going to tell the eye that what they're looking at is water. So you're getting a little bit of reflection from the trees and light. But you're still seeing the rocks through the water. And the movement on top from the fountain or from the waterfall hitting it. Okay, then you can finish this off. Take your script liner, get a little bit of white with some water till it's inky. And you can come back at the edge of these little foam bits here. And I'm just kind of sputtering to get that movement on the water. And then here and there, there's just little bubbles. And one thing I want to do, this is dry up here. I can take my 16 and load medium, and then we can side load some sap green. And now we can come right in here and kind of set that drop right there, right there, and there. And pull some of it down on the chisel edge. Okay. All right, we'll just sign it. And I hope you enjoyed this series on water and the different ways that you can create the look of water, both in the ocean and on the land. And there is our finished waterfall piece. Thank you for watching Paintabilities today. Go and check out all my other lessons that are available right here on my channel, the Michelle Belle Designs channel. And I will see you next month with a new series. Bye-bye.